Hi, I'm Clyde Kilough, and this is Verse by Verse. Have you ever felt yourself feeling like you're living in the middle of a world full of deceit, flattery, arrogance, and unfairness? Or, to make it closer to home, have you ever gone through a time in your life where you felt like you were being personally attacked? If so, then today's verse we're looking at is a good one to keep in mind. Psalm 12 is a song written by David, who must have been despairing over some situation in his life. Some believe this dates from the time of Saul's persecution of David, where David was literally running for his life. The chapter heading in the New King James Version titles this passage, Man's Treachery and God's Constancy. In the early part of the chapter, David describes a society where it seems the godly people are disappearing and evil people are multiplying. And who is suffering? The righteous. And it seems no one is able to stop the proud and arrogant, those who scoff at God. But then God himself steps in. In verse 5 we read, "For the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy, now I will arise, says the Lord. I will set him in the safety for which he yearns." For the moment, we are living in a world that long ago rejected God, and God is allowing this world to go its own way until he chooses to step in, send Christ to return, and put a stop to the universal madness. Those who sincerely strive to obey God in the world today find themselves in the minority, earnestly praying, "Thy kingdom come." But in the meantime, before Christ does return, God is aware, and he does step into the affairs of men to help his people. This phrase in the verse, "for the oppression of the poor, for the sighing of the needy," reminds us that God has a heart for the downtrodden. That is affirmed throughout the Bible, in the law, in the prophets, and the teachings of Jesus. God is not indifferent to suffering. He listens intently to and is moved by the afflicted when they cry out to him, the sighing of the needy. Sighing conveys a heavy heart or pain and longing. And there comes a time when, as we read next, when God says, "Now I will arise." This is the turning point in our situations when we sometimes see no hope. This reminds me of Exodus 3, where God told Moses, "I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them." The wicked may think they go unseen and unrestricted, but God will not keep silent forever. This verse reminds us of God's justice, that he will have the final word, and implied in that, our need to trust his timing. Then God promises, back in Psalm 12:5, "I will set him in the safety for which he yearns." The security, the shelter, the safe harbor. And that can be in all of the realms we need, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, God never promises to give us immediate escape from any such problems. There's almost always a period of time involved. Otherwise, we would have no need to long for relief, for justice, or for deliverance. He allows us to learn to lean on him as our ultimate protector and vindicator. David's poems and songs were preserved to teach us, how to think about life and to think about God when we are in tough times. Someday in the future, Christ is going to return, and as Isaiah 35 describes, sorrow and sighing shall flee away for the whole world. But for us today, for you and me, this verse reminds us that God is not aloof or unresponsive to the injustices his people may face. He will always lead us to the safety for which we yearn.
Verse by Verse is a Life, Hope, and Truth podcast. Check out the show notes to find more free content, like videos, articles, and booklets in our Learning Center.